Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Autumn and today is going to be a Brandon Sanderson reading vlog. Before either one of us proceed with this video, I am going to be reading Mistborn, and I want to be perfectly clear. This video will have spoilers. I will be showing not necessarily pages in here, but my reactions. I will be talking about certain things that happen at any point in time. So if you haven't read Mistborn and you don't want to be spoiled, or if you haven't read Mistborn and you don't know if you want spoilers, please just don't even watch this video, because I do not want to be the reason something gets spoiled for you. As much as I want you to be here and hang out with me and for us to chat about books, I will not be to blame if you proceed and you have something spoiled for you. I'm happy you're here. I want us to have a great time, but just keep that in mind if you proceed to watch this video. Now that that's out the way, hello, how's it going? I had to put that disclaimer because I am terrified of spoiling something for somebody, and I don't want to be the reason somebody is upset about a spoiler. Now that we're past that, we can proceed with the spoilers. This is the first book I have ever read by Brandon Sanderson. I want to consider myself a fan because I listen to his online writing lectures, and I do look up to him with how well spoken he is about the writing craft and about creation of, you know, world building and all of that fun stuff. Mistborn is the first book I am going to be tackling, and I'm not tackling this book alone. I am reading it with one of my besties, Bree, but we also run a book club over on Discord. I'll leave it linked down below if you're curious about it. If you want to pop on over and continue reading this series with us, we would love to have you join us. By the time you're watching this video, we're already finished with Mistborn. We'll be moving on to book 2, which is The Well of Ascension. I say I'm excited for it. I've already started. I'm 100 pages in, and I wanted to give this update and start the vlog before I proceed and read any more. There's a lot of stuff that's been happening in this book that I feel like I have to talk about. So if you don't know what Mistborn is about, let me just quickly give you the synopsis. Sometimes I worry I am not the hero everyone thinks I am. The philosophers assure me that this is the time, that the signs have been met, but I still wonder if they have the wrong man. So many people depend on me. They say I will hold the future for the entire world in my arms. When they see me, do they see a liar? Once a hero rose to save the world, he failed. For 1,000 years since, the world has been a wasteland of ash and mist, ruled by an immortal emperor known as the Lord Ruler. Every revolt has failed miserably. Yet now, hope survives. Hope that dares to dream of ending the empire and defeating the world ruler. A new kind of uprising is being planned, one that depends on the cunning of a brilliant criminal mastermind and the determination of an unlikely heroine, a teenage street urchin named Vin. Where a hero rose to save the world and failed, can a young heroine succeed? I'm annotating this book because I want to truly be submerged in this story and understand all that's going on in here, right? Like, I am trying so hard to keep up with everything. I've got certain parts of the story underlined. I have a couple of pages that are dog-eared because I'll be returning. If there's one thing you should know about me, is I don't mind dog-earing books, underlining books. I plan on having this copy of Mistborn for the rest of my entire life. It's my copy to do whatever I need to do with it, to make sure I understand what the heck is going on. I'm 100 pages in, like I said. So far, I just want to say that I love Brandon Sanderson's writing style. I have been very much enjoying the little pieces of the world that he is presenting to us, the way he presents this information, since it has nothing to do with our world and he's literally world building and he's got his own magic system. I am enjoying how he's introducing us to it. I'm trying to take my time with it to understand what it means. Some of those things are underlined, dog-eared, so I can go back to him in case I get confused, or if I need a refresher or reminder on anything, I'm going back to those parts in the story. But so far, where we have gotten into the story, we have been introduced to the problems. We've been introduced to the cast. I have a feeling there's gonna be a lot of people floating around in this book. We have learned that Vin, our main character, is a Mistborn, and we're told what that means, the difference between a Mistborn and a Misting. I believe that's how you pronounce that word. I am not listening to the audiobook for this one. I am just straight winging it, sitting down, reading it old school. So some of the pronunciations I might not be 100% with. I am following. I understand. We have gotten to the part where they have decided that they are going to take down the Lord Ruler and how they are going to do that. He has already gotten the crew together and told them the plans, and I cannot freaking wait. I think this is gonna be fun. I have a feeling we're gonna get a training sequence in here, and I can't wait for it. There is one thing I want to say I have suspicions about. So at the beginning of every chapter, right before the chapter starts, there are these italicized words, and they're told in first person. We don't technically know who this person is yet, but I have my suspicions, and I think that those italicized words are the Lord Ruler 1,000 years before. I don't know if I'm supposed to know that right now, or if like that's something I'm supposed to be figuring out along the way, but the snippets that we've gotten are telling me that's how I feel in my heart and in my soul. I feel like whoever this Lord Ruler was, maybe before he was immortal and before he did maybe whatever he did to become immortal and the Lord Ruler, I feel like he was just a regular person. Maybe he had some allomancy that he used. I think those italicized words are the events of what happened 1,000 years ago leading up to them actually happening. There were a few parts that make me feel this way is because the world now, there's ash everywhere, and you have people sweeping the streets because the atmosphere around where these people live is just shit, basically. And there was a part where in the italicized words, they were crossing a mountain, and we were having the mountain described to us as it being lively and green. I don't think those were the specific words, but it wasn't like ash just everywhere. So that made me believe that those italicized words are the events leading up to this 1,000-year reign of this Lord Ruler. Those are my suspicions. That is all I have to say at this moment in time, but all I gotta say is I'm loving it so far. In our Discord, we are talking about the book. Somebody in there had shared a TikTok. If there's a way for me to share that TikTok, I'll put it on the screen or figure out a way. I am scared. I am terrified. It's not spoiled to me, but I'm scared because towards the end of this book, something happens. People were like freaking out about it, and I don't know if I can handle it, if I can take it. And I just logged in to our Discord just to see what was going on, and someone just said, all done. I may or may not be downloading the next book onto my Kindle as we speak. So that scares me. That scares me because I don't know. I don't know at this moment in time what is gonna happen. I need to sit down and I'm going to read for a little bit. My goal for the rest of this week, it's Monday. My goal by Saturday is to be halfway. So to be about 300 pages in. That's the goal for this week. I still have a couple of weeks before book club meets up. I feel like this week I need to play a little bit of catch up to get to about 300 pages. That's what I'm gonna do now. I'll chat with you guys when I have a lot more to say. But until then, here we go. We have so much to talk about. I have updates on Mistborn, and I had sat down to record this video and then the camera battery died. So I had to walk all the way back to my office to get the new battery. But let me get you set up so we can have some chats about Mistborn. Oh my gosh. So where do I even start? I feel like it has been a minute before we've been able to chat and have an update about Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. So let me pull up my notes. I do know in my last update, which I think was like the introduction to this video, I wanted to give you guys an update once I hit page 300, but I passed page 300 while I was reading at work. Obviously, I couldn't give you an update then, and I'm definitely past page 300. I am currently on page 373. I think that's maybe about 58% of the way through with this book. I just need to say that Brandon Sanderson does a great job with dumbing down the information. There is tons of world building. I mean, there's dense magic systems, the world system, the world building, the characters. There's a huge cast of characters in here. For the first maybe 200 pages, I will be totally honest, I was a bit lost and a little overwhelmed at the density in this world and how much thought that Brandon Sanderson put into this book with the magic system. You can tell that he loves his craft, and you can tell that he is involved and he wants to make the magic system as real and as making sense as possible. You know, like he wants his magic system to make sense and he wants to explain it to you. And I cannot tell this man how thankful I am that he has taken the time to spoon feed me all of the information repeatedly. Now that I am almost 400 pages into this book, I feel a lot more confident with what's going on with the world building, with the magic system. Am I the expert on Brandon Sanderson and the magic system? Absolutely fucking not. It's gonna take me, I feel like, a little bit longer to fully grasp everything, and I still feel like I might need to watch a couple of YouTube videos or maybe try and find Brandon Sanderson breaking down his magic system, because while I understand what's going on and I feel like I'm reading it, I'm enjoying it, I know what's going on, I know the objective here, I still want to fully understand this world and what all is going on. I think in my last update, I explained what Mistborn was about, and I love the heist element of this book. I have enjoyed watching all of the characters do their part in the heist. While we're not specifically following every single character, for the most part, I've seen it only bounce between Vin, who is our Mistborn, our main character, and I think this is how you pronounce his name. I'm not listening to the audiobook, so I could be pronouncing it wrong, but is it Kelsier? We are also following him, and he is one of the other Mistborn. I really enjoy seeing both of these two characters and seeing their character arcs and seeing how that they have both changed throughout this story. I feel like Vin is a lot more obvious with her character development, but I also want to say that I feel like Brandon Sanderson has done a solid job with her psychology. So she is a 16-year-old girl who has been an orphan. She's been living in the slums for a really long time, kind of hopping around with her older brother who was extremely abusive. They were always part of other crews and with other thieves, and they didn't really treat her the best either. They would abuse her, beat her up, and just be really terrible towards her. What I appreciate with Brandon Sanderson is when Vin is adopted into this heist and pretty much taken under their wing, he doesn't just throw out all of who she was before. Instead, he leans into that and he creates Vin to be this really complex character where she struggles with how life was before and how that still haunts her and how that dictates the choices she makes. I love seeing how Vin contemplates that. So here's an example. It's definitely a spoiler. There was one part where Vin and Kelsier went to the Lord Ruler's mansion to cause a little bit of trouble, but they were doing something for the heist. There was something that Kel wanted to do, and Vin pretty much forced him to make her come with him. And they ended up getting caught, chased by these inquisitors who are people who are these creatures that will hunt down Mistborn and kill you basically. So when all of this happened and Vin and Kel were under attack by these inquisitors, Vin got so beat up. If she was a normal person without any of her Mistborn allomancy, she would have died. But my point of what I'm bringing up is in the next chapter or a couple of chapters, I think, Vin was waking up from the coma that they had put her in so her body could heal. She was slowly waking up and she noticed that her body was in pain, that she felt a lot of physical pain, but she immediately thought back to her brother and to these other heists. But she also immediately was like, I must have done something wrong because I'm in pain, and her brother Reen had to have beaten her up because she did something wrong. All of that to say that Brandon Sanderson has his characters carry their baggage with them for long periods of time, which is normal, which is something, especially trauma, that Vin has been facing for 16 years of her life, and for things to just change and she's not in any of those situations anymore, but for her to experience such excruciating pain and to pull it back to her childhood, to have it rooted into her, how she perceives her brother and how her brother is brilliant storytelling. And I feel like this is what sets this book apart from other books. I feel like characters who have baggage in certain stories, once they're put on the adventure, or, you know, we enter into act 2, sometimes, not always, we lose that identity, we lose that part of those characters. But Brandon Sanderson, like I said, leans into it. He still has Vin have those internal struggles, and I think that it is brilliant storytelling. I have talked about Vin for long enough. I feel like I could talk about Kelsier for a long period of time too, but I really just want to say I have been enjoying my time reading this book. It's very dense. I've been really slow with it. I haven't tried the audiobook. There were so many people in our Discord for the book club. It was very divided. It was like 50-50. Some people either really loved the audiobook and other people just didn't jive with it. I believe it's a male narrator. I sometimes can't listen to male narrators. I don't know. There's something in their voice. There's something when they try to either talk in a female voice. It just kind of ruins it for me. I have foregone the audiobook, so I have no idea how the audiobook is for this, but just sitting down and reading it, opening up this physical copy and reading it has been the highlights of my weeks because it's been taking me so long to get through this book. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about in this update before we move forward. Oh, I have been doing tons and tons of annotations in here. I have been doing highlighting. I've been writing notes in here for things that I have been suspecting going on. I have dog-eared some pages and putting in my 2 cents and not necessarily trying to figure out the mystery, because even though it's a heist and there are still some like, you know, interesting things, not so much like mysteries going on, I enjoy sitting back and trying to figure out and listen to certain key lines in these stories. One part in this book that caught my attention, I have 2 things and then I'll leave you alone. The first thing I want to talk about, I gave this in the first update, that at the beginning of each chapter there are italicized words, and I had the suspicion that those were the Lord Ruler, and I can't remember if I had specified if it was him in his mortal form or in his immortal form, but I meant his mortal form, like as a man, and I think that that has been proven to be him. There has been some other people mentioned in these italicized little blurbs, but it is told in first person, and I am still betting money that it is the Lord Ruler when he was a man before he took on the darkness and did all of that. I said I had 2 things, but really it could be 3. I'm a big fan of Brandon Sanderson's writing lectures. First book of his I've ever read. Reading this book and remembering what he had said in his online writing lectures, there was something that he had said when he was talking about storytelling and he was talking about books. He had mentioned this particular story I'm about to explain. At the time I was listening to him say this, I didn't know that I think he's talking about Mistborn. In his writing lecture, he had talked about, well, what if you wrote a story where the Lord of the Rings, but instead of Frodo defeating Sauron, throwing away the ring and saving the world, what if he didn't do that? Like, what if he was overtaken by the ring? What if Sauron defeated Frodo? I feel like the Lord Ruler as a mortal man didn't defeat this deepness. I think I said darkness before. It's called deepness. I don't think he defeated this deepness. I think the deepness overtook him. That is my theory. I feel like that's where we're going based off of what I've listened to in Brandon Sanderson's writing lectures, trying to piece together what all is going on here and just like what I'm feeling in my gut. Okay, that was my second thing. And now my third and final thing, I promise, because this update has been super long. There was a moment where Kel, he had met with a ska and was putting little seedlings, little droplets of like heist information, and also trying to see what the word is on the street. And then a little bit later into that chapter, he changes his clothes and changes his perspective, so now he's the ska, and then he's talking to one of the noblemen of one of the great houses, but he's from the rich's house, and it's Lord Straff Venture. I think that was how his name was pronounced. He said something, it was in his mind, that said that there was some type of magic that was similar to body jumping. If somebody was dying, somebody else, I don't know how this works yet. We haven't really been introduced to that type of magic. At least I don't think. You would have the ability to jump into somebody else's body, potentially. So the point that I thought that we were getting at here was that Kell could potentially not be Kell. That's just food for thought. I don't know how I personally feel about that. As in, oh no, it's definitely Kelsier, it's him, or is it somebody else? And how does that type of magic work? If that person body jumps, whoever this person is, do they keep the memories of that other person that they overtake, or what happens with all of that? And I'm also curious how long these people are able to live, since the deepness was supposedly defeated 1,000 years ago. The Lord Ruler is apparently immortal. How long do the regular people live? Or are the people who have the ability to be metal benders, do they live longer? Like, how does that work? Or is there a way that they can slow down their aging? I have thoughts, and those are a lot of my thoughts right now. Could they slow down their aging? I mean, if they have the ability to heal themselves, this is probably going way deep. Like when Vin, she should have been killed by one of the Inquisitors. If she has the ability to heal her body, and if aging is considered an illness and you can slow down your aging, what would prevent the mortal version of the Lord Ruler? Like, what if he snuck away and didn't become the Lord Ruler? He unleashed the deepness, and now we're looking at the deepness. And what if he, the mortal man, mortal, is still alive, whoever he was who was supposed to defeat that darkness, the deepness, but what if he was the person that body jumped into Kell, and maybe he couldn't show his real person, himself, because the darkness, the deepness would recognize it, you know? I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. Those are all of my thoughts. Those are my 20 minutes worth of thoughts. That is ridiculous. I'm so sorry that this was a 20-minute update, but those are my thoughts. I want to get to about page 500 today. That is the goal. So that's about 120 pages I plan on reading today. We have book club at the end of the week. So it's Monday. We have book club on Saturday, and I have quite a bit of other stuff I have to do also. But here we go. These are my thoughts right now.
All I hear is this voice inside me, but I do my best to hide it. And I pray
I want to give you guys a quick update because I'm unwell right now. Extremely, incredibly, horribly ill. I just finished part 4. I am almost to page 600, which means I have less than 100 pages until I'm finished with this. I am sick to my stomach. I don't know if I can go on. I'm so serious. The events that have happened between my last update and now, this is overwhelming. We have touched on a lot. I'm frightened. The rebellion, the army, have been hacked and slashed. Yeden, I think that's how you pronounce his name, or Wyden, Y-E-D-E-N. He was the leader of the rebellion, and he was gonna be their political figure, the person who's gonna take over when they overthrew the final empire. He's dead. Apparently his head was on a spike along with some of the other people because they had gotten way too brave in their training and they tried to ruffle some feathers, and that did not work out. So that kind of threw a wrench in their plan. And there's been some other things. The great houses no longer wanting to do their little balls and their little meetups and all of their political stuff. In fact, at the last one, everyone was pretty much taking their stances of who they were going to be, you know, allies with. Not many people were being pulled towards Vin or Valette. We had some beef between Eland and Vin / Valette. We're learning a lot more about Eland, and I was kind of on the fence with him, but I do think he's somebody that we can trust. I also find it interesting that he's highborn and he doesn't have any allomancy. I don't know if maybe I've missed something or whatever, but I find it interesting that he doesn't have any allomancy. So maybe we'll figure that out in book 2 if he makes it, if he survives. The house that Vin was the lower house, I could never pronounce it. Renault. I'm not exactly sure if that's how you pronounce it, but it was one of the smaller houses that Vin was pretending to be the lower status noblewoman. And so her quote unquote uncle, they were trying to get away. They ended up getting caught by the ministry. Marsh is dead. Although I'm a little indecisive about how I feel with that. It could be a hoax. Like, it could be fake. Part of me is in denial. And the part of me that's in denial, the reason I feel like that is because when we got to that scene with Marsh's body being dismembered and his face being smashed. In the writing, Vin had made it a point to say that the face was unrecognizable. Could it have been some other random person, or that other person that Marsh was supposed to have been with, but he was gonna sneak away from that person for a short amount of time and meet with Kelsier and Vin, but instead maybe they misidentified who was the rat, even though Marsh was the rat trying to get information from the ministry, but maybe they thought it was the person that was with him. I don't know. These are just like my thoughts right now. But going back to Vin's fake uncle getting captured and all of that part of the crew getting captured, and they were being led through the streets to be executed, and then Kelsier had some badass fighting going on, and I was scared that that was going to be the outcome because of how well he was fighting. I'm shooketh to the core, and I don't believe that he's dead. I can't. I mean, I can believe it because he was the mentor, you know, and I feel like the mentor has to die. At the same time, I don't believe it because I still felt like Kelsier was something else. I don't know. We are missing bits and pieces. This update's kind of all over the place, but I feel like I'm jumbled and overwhelmed. We read a little bit more of the logbook, essentially the diary of the Lord Ruler when he was still a mortal man. We read all of that, but we never got anything after the day before when he was supposed to defeat the deepness. We have met the Lord Ruler, and it's interesting. He killed Kelsier. Recognized him too, shall we say. He recognized him. We're missing something. I'm not buying it. I don't know. I have, what did I say, less than 100 pages? I think I have like 74 pages left exactly to get read before Saturday, but I work for the next 2 days, so we'll see what happens. I just really wanted to pick up the camera and talk about everything up until this point, and because I'm very unwell. In our Discord, we've been chatting about the book. A lot of people have already finished. The book is driving me because I have to know how it ends. But another thing that's driving me is the spoiler thread. I have not had a chance to open it and to look at it because I don't want to be spoiled for anything, but I really want to know what everybody's saying in there. I am that nosy bitch. I have to know. I am sick of not knowing everybody else's thoughts on this, and I just want to say everybody has just been amazing with keeping their spoilers. I feel like I pretty much said everything I wanted to say about Mistborn. I just shared in the group chat. I just left a message in there saying I am unwell because it's true. I'm so very much unwell. I think I'm in denial about what has happened. That's it. That's all, folks. I guess I'll carry on, but that was this is my update. So the final update that I have with you guys will be when I finish the book.
Left behind back at the station. Suddenly there's no one else but me around. Lost my thought in translation.
I finished it. I am unwell. This was brilliant. I finished this about an hour and a half ago, and I wanted to sit on my thoughts and my feelings. You can hear noises in the background. The dishwasher's going. I loved this. It was heartbreaking. I wasn't expecting some twists and turns in here that ended up happening. It all makes sense. Those twists and turns, everything that happened in here, I agree with, even if my heart doesn't. I think that this book was beautifully crafted. It's interesting because I feel like this book could stand on its own, even though I know it's the start of a series, and I honestly cannot wait to start the second book, which is The Well of Ascension. I will be filming myself documenting that journey of reading that book as well. It will be a little bit of time before I get to book 2. I think that this was brilliant. This book has everything I love about fantasy, everything I want in fantasy. I loved the little bit of romance. I loved how it was just kind of sprinkled throughout. I'm not a big romantic fantasy person, but I loved the little seedlings of this. I supported it. I loved it. I think the love interest was fantastically crafted. I felt like all of his motives and everything that happened around the love interest, Eland, I support. I agree with. I am still not over the fact that Kelsier died. It had to happen. I know that it had to happen, but that doesn't make it any less hurtful. I think that Brandon Sanderson is a genius with his writing and with his twists and turns. The twist that I loved that I was not expecting was the Lord Ruler not being who the person was that we were following at the beginning of all of the chapters, those little italicized words. I loved that twist. And it makes sense. If and when I ever reread the series, I will definitely be picking up on some of like those subtle little things and how it makes sense, and that my original theory of the deepness overtaking our hero of ages was false. I really loved this line in the epilogue. It was the italicized words where it said, if there are prophecies, if there is a hero of ages, then my mind whispers that there must be something directing my path. Something is watching, something cares. These peaceful whispers tell me a truth I wish very much to believe. If I fail, another shall come to finish my work. That is beautiful writing. It hurts. Wow. There are two stickler things that I have, and I haven't completed the series, and they might be answered later on. One is more of like a writing craft thing that I particularly did not care for. So in the epilogue, it was presented as the characters just kind of like talking to each other to figure out the little end pieces, those little straggly ends. They're trying to tie up all the loose ends. And the one thing I didn't like about that was all of the asking a question and then answering, asking another question and then answering. I don't really like that style of being presented information in the context of them sitting on the roof and just kind of reflecting on the journey that they have gone through in this book. I understand, it makes sense, but I don't particularly care for that kind of writing style. I understand it for this part in that piece of the story. It does make sense. One other thing that I am a little confused about, that I couldn't figure out the reason why, we have the Kandra who played Lord Renau, Vin's uncle. Why? I want to know why the Kandra wanted to be part of Kelsier's plan. I mean, I guess maybe we learned that, now that I'm saying that out loud, I guess maybe we learned that piece where he was just paid to play the part, and that was the reason why. Maybe I just figured it out as we were talking. Maybe that is the reason why, that he was paid to do so. Well, yeah, maybe that is, maybe I just answered that. That was my only other hang up, was why did that Kandra be part of the whole heist and part of the plan? But if Kelsier paid him to take on that role, and then he paid him extra to be part of Vin's next part of her journey, which I'm assuming is going to be book 2, he's going to be in that a little bit more, then it all could possibly make sense. I meet with book club a little bit later today where we will all talk about our thoughts and feelings. I honestly can't wait for it. I think that book club is going to be really fun and exciting. I am so incredibly happy that we chose this series and this book to be the kickoff of our revamped book club. I could not be happier. I am just so happy with this read. It's a 5-star for sure. Absolutely. I never had doubts that I wouldn't enjoy this. I was scared of what to expect. I was scared to know what's going to happen, and our spoiler thread on our Discord for our book club was blowing up, and I really wanted to be part of it. I am happy to be part of the Brandon Sanderson cult now. It was a very dense magic system. There was a lot that was going on, but I think that it was all very well explained and so incredibly thought out. I do think Brandon Sanderson takes pride in his magic system and his worlds, and I think that he has a lot of fun creating them and then creating like the what ifs and then trying to answer those what ifs. And I think that's what makes his writing so great. One thing that would have been incredibly helpful, I didn't know this, but I'm always scared to look at the ending, like to see how many pages, because I'm always so afraid I'm gonna get spoiled. But it would have been helpful if I had known that the last few pages actually had what the terms are, if they are, you know, burning iron or steel, or what the rioters meant or the thugs meant, because honestly I kept getting what that meant and who that was related to a little bit confused. But at the ending, when I flipped to the next page and it was all of that information, I was like, well, that would have been nice to know, but I would have been scared to be flipping back and forth too much and spoil it. I enjoyed this. I very much loved all of the little twists and turns. I wasn't expecting the Lord Ruler to not be who we thought he was. I loved that. It made sense with the story. It made sense with how everything was going. And it just honestly makes my heart hurt for our hero of ages who never was. I think that it is also something like with the Pac-Men, with the terrorist men actually killing him and taking his place and going into the Wheel of Ascension. I think that that was a fantastic twist and turn of events because I wasn't expecting that. I also think that it creates a lot more tension too now for book 2 being the Well of Ascension. What if there is something to do in the Well of Ascension that plays or tampers with the magic of a terrorist man or something? You know, like what if there's something that corrupts them when they get closer and closer to this Well of Ascension. There's so many theories that I have, and I'm just so interested to see where it's gonna go. I'm really excited to see how it all ends up going down. I also enjoyed, and I found that very interesting, that the Lord Ruler both has allomancy, and I could not pronounce the F word for the Terrorsmen, whatever that they could do with the metals. I don't know how to pronounce that word, but it starts with an F, and I'll put it on the screen. I find it interesting that he can do both, or he could do both, that we still don't know what happened at the Well of Ascension. I am still very interested, and I love that we still don't know that answer, and that is why it leads us into book 2, because now, like, those are my questions. Well, what did happen at the Well of Ascension? Could we be repeating history again? Because, you know, book 3 is the Hero of Ages. I can go on and talk about it, but I feel like this is the best I can do because of how my thoughts are. But that is going to conclude this reading vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I can't wait to film and read book 2 because that is going to be so much fun. I do plan on doing this again for book 2. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.